Hello friends, welcome back. BigDenoPlays Kingdom Death time. It's happened before we thought it would. It's exciting. It's okay. We are back for another episode of BigDenoPlays Kingdom Death, although this one is going to be a little different to my normal ones, although they've all been fairly different, I suppose. But in this playthrough of Kingdom Death, we are going to try for one of the more challenging different game modes that you find in the back of the book. Now, as you can see here, we have the Crimson Crocodile from the People of the Dreamkeeper, and that is because we will be playing a People of the Dreamkeeper campaign. However, let's grab out this bad boy, which is the original book. Boom. And I will show you the variant campaign that we are going to play with. So at the back of the book, in case you didn't know, they have this page here which has game variants of the game. Now, one of them is quick mode, hero mode, death mode, storyteller mode, solo play. We're obviously playing solo. However, they have a section on custom campaigns. And one of those custom campaigns is the Seven Swordsmen. So, we start a campaign with a population of 7. Each survivor starts with ageless and has sword weapon mastery. Now, we will never gain population. We never roll on the intimacy table as there is no love in our hearts. So, it's an exciting concept, 7 survivors in total. How are we going to make that work? We are going to have a couple of house rules, and in the past I've sort of steered away and tried to play very true Kingdom Death, but as I've progressed and played lots of campaigns and lots of events, lots of things, what I've realised at its heart is that Kingdom Death is a role-playing game. Bra Mithra, one of the big content creators for Kingdom Death, his tagline is actually sharing moments of gaming and role-playing. And I think as I've continued to play Kingdom Death, I've realised that it is much more about the narrative and the fun stories that you get to tell. And it's okay to bend the rules on occasion to create a more interesting story, and at the end of the day, it is your game, play it however you want. So I feel like I've done enough of the game in a pure way that I'm allowed to just stretch the boundaries and limits a little bit. So we are going to play a few variations to that, and I'm going to talk about them right now. All right, so let's talk about the variants to this campaign, 7 Swordswomen that we're going to play with. So before we move on to setting up Scribe, so there's obviously a few key issues with having only 7 population, and that is that when they die, the campaign is over. So I am absolutely convinced that we will not make it to the end of this campaign, and that is a novel thing for me. So, however, we'd love to try and get as far as we can. So the goal is to get as far as we can in the campaign. Now, we're going to make a couple of changes to that basic framework for the 7 Swordswomen. So we'll have 7 unique narrative sculpts that will represent our 7 Swordswomen, and we will actually be choosing names for them. And I said this in the last Lantern Year Zero episode, but in this one we're actually going to do it, which is I'd love to hear some comments and thoughts for names of the remaining characters. So those will pop up a little bit later on the screen, so we'll talk about that then. So the first variant that we're going to do in this campaign is we are going to select 3 principles. So with 7 population, you will never get a principal society, you will never have a principal birth, and you will eventually gain a principal death. Now, we're going to choose to gain the principles right now. We're assuming that these wonderful 7 swordswomen have been a society together and are all that remains of a settlement. So they are going to be principle accept the darkness. They are definitely survival of the fittest to help try and get us a little bit closer to that end by having some lifetime rerolls, 7 only. And finally, a principal graves, because it makes sense that these tight-knit community would indeed be absolutely devastated at the death of one of their number. So we will have those 3 principles in play from the beginning. The second change that we've made is we're going to deal out character cards for our characters at this point in time. Now, that's a fun idea put forth by Bra in the Kingdom Death Discord, which I highly recommend joining if you're not a part of it. And so the way we're going to do that is we're going to have one character who gains the legendary ability. We're going to have one character who gains an impairment, and the rest we're going to deal random abilities. And so I'm going to set that up right now. Okay, so the legendary ability that we're going to choose is not going to be one of these two. It is actually going to be from the new Lantern Ire armor box, and it's called the Red. And it is a very cool ability that we are going to include. So what it does is it allows the character with the character card to gain every single weapon type for any weapon they use. Now, initially that probably doesn't sound super powerful. It may even be too powerful, which is fun for a 7 Swordsman campaign, to have the leader of our settlement, the wonderful character, being possibly too powerful. So this leader, we are going to call her Aya, because that is in fact who it is, and that is the first name character in our campaign. So Aya, she will be wielding the Red, and that ability is going to be extremely powerful. We are going to deal out one impairment now. There are 7 impairments, plus there are 2 more impairments that I have coming in the new box. And so I'm just going to deal myself these 2 legendary abilities. And so in that new Survivor box, let me just go and find it. We have 4 new character cards. One's called the Impetuous, and one is called the Unfettered. So this will be the Impetuous, and this will be the Unfettered. So those are winging their way to me right now. So we'll shuffle this out. This is a single impairment that we have on one of our characters. So we will deal that, and we gain... Oh, it's the second one, the Unfettered. Interesting. Okay, so just for clarity, the Unfettered is when you cannot depart while wearing heavy gear or gear with a printed armor point value of higher than 2. So the Unfettered, I'm just going to make a note of that, friends. Very cool, very cool. All right, so we're done with impairments. So there are also 2 new 2 new character cards that I would like to include because I have them and it's great. And so these 2 are called Natural Healer and the Versatile. So the legendary sword one, the Fang, will be the Versatile, and the other one will be Natural Healer. So this is fun. I'm really excited about character cards, and I really think that in general, we don't get to use them enough. I got to use them quite early in my last normal campaign. I got it really early, and it was unreal. So we have 5 of these for our characters that we have in the campaign. So the first one will be the Parent. Oh, that is so good. You inexplicably find your way home. When you would die, you inexplicably survive. The Parent. So wonderful. The next one will be the Bow. Gain +1 accuracy with bows. It's a very strong start, I've got to tell you. I'm happy with both of those, and I'll come back to why I'm happy with that in a second. So good. All right, the next one is the Dark. Oh, when you attack, increase the range of your perfect hits for the first roll. That is so good. That's Newt. I'll tell you about Newt in a second. All right, and we have the Queen. Oh, all other survivors gain +1 speed till the end of the round. That's so hard. That's so hard. All right, and finally, the Axe. Gain +1 accuracy with axes. That's a wonderful spread. I'm very happy with those. So I'll put those aside. We'll come back to those later on when we're setting up our Scribe app, because that is awesome. So that's our first change. Character cards, and it makes sense when you think that this settlement's been around for a long time. one of our sword masters, so in this campaign, everyone gets ageless, and they also gain sword mastery. However, there is a new sword mastery that is a novel sword mastery. So if we go to custom expansions, we will actually see that there is a new community expansion for Willow, which is right here in the wonderful Scribe app, hopefully, since I've updated it. Willow contains sword novel proficiency. One of our survivors is going to gain the novel sword proficiency. So we will select who that will be soon. That's just a fun little change and again, a way for us to use some of the cool pieces that we've got in our game there. All right, so some other fairly significant changes coming up now, and then we have one last one. So the first significant change is around philosophies. So I'm actually going to choose the 7 philosophies that we have in the game. They'll still follow the normal rules. Each survivor will only have a single unique philosophy. So we'll have the 4 basic ones. We'll have a dreamist, a survivalist, and our 2 other ones, which will be deadism and faceism. And then we will have 3 level 2s. So each person will have a unique philosophy. They're still going to follow all the normal rules. They're not going to gain the philosophy until age milestone 2, etc., etc. But that way we get to experience some cool stuff, and we don't just have 7 facists in our campaign, which would be boring. Further to that, with fighting arts and for Ark survivors, fighting arts don't really work all that well. And one thing I really observed in the last campaign is that I think fighting arts in general are a really awesome element of the game. When I went back to playing with just fighting arts and no Ark survivors, it was awesome. I was loving it. So I want to get more fighting arts into the game. And the way that we're going to do that is at any time during the campaign, each character can choose to take a fighting art as if it were a secret fighting art using Vaultless. So with Vaultless, you can choose to gain a fighting art and roll on a table, and on an 8+ you get it. But with this campaign, if it is a fighting art that I have decided I want, I'm just going to take it and suffer the penalty as if it were a secret fighting art, which is gain a systemic pressure or a torment. Not a massive change, but I think it will just, again, add things like strain fighting arts. They're such an awesome thing that I've spent so much time unlocking. Not getting to use those is a real shame. So the final change to the basic framework of the game is seed patterns. So you normally gain seed patterns at Understanding 3, and you get a random seed pattern. The deck of seed patterns is growing ever larger. Rather than drawing from the random deck and potentially getting something that we cannot use or create, because there is a limited number of survivors, there is only 7, we're just going to choose the seed patterns that we get, again, just so we can play with some cool, interesting stuff. We will make that choice as we get to the understanding milestones themselves, but we will set up that right now, the actual deck itself. So we'll choose from the deck at the time we get them. So let's set up our Scribe app. So we're going to archive this Plux Gutter. Boom. Now we have actually done more campaigns than that. We've actually done 20. We've completed 20. And so that means we have some benefits to conduct. So let's talk about what we're setting up for the campaign. All right. So we will create a wonderful new settlement. It is a people of the Dreamkeeper. And I've picked a name. It's going to be called the Light of the Seven. Wonderful Game of Thrones reference there. So we are going to name our starting survivors after this episode is released to the public. So please put forward your name ideas. I'd love to hear them. I have 2 selected already, which we'll go through when we get to each of their things. So no White Lion, no Screaming Antelope. We do have a Phoenix. We do have a Butcher. We do have a Hand. We are going to add the Black Knight. And I love the Black Knight. Great addition to the game. A lot of lore, a lot of fascinating storytelling stuff. I love it. We are also going to add the Dung Beetle Knight, and the reason we're going to do that is because, first of all, it's a fantastic fight, and second of all, because we want to try and make Griswoldo from the green armour. And because it's a 7 Swords People campaign, we need someone who's an absolute sword weapon. So Dung Beetle Knight joins the list. The Flower Knight is also a required component of Griswoldo, and it is also very appropriate, given that it is 7 swordsmen, to have the best swordsman in the land. The Frog Dog will also be included, and the Frog Dog is actually going to be in our prologue as the prologue monster. We've also included the Gorm. Now this is a risk, but it is also required for the Green Knight piece. However, the only other thing that we are going to include that is, that's it. We're not going to include the Lonely Tree. We're going to add all of this content there, even though some of it won't get used, but I have all of that stuff, so we'll add that. Like the Stampede Glaive is not going to get used. Longclaw Lenore's not going to get used. Actually, I won't include her or her because they're not going to get used. Grimmery might though, which will be fun. So we are not going to include encounters. We are going to include scouts. We're not going to include wanderers, and we are going to include characters. And our prologue monster is going to be the Frog Dog. Great. All right. So when you have completed many, many, many campaigns, you have this Lost Settlements record box, and you actually gain benefits as things increase. So we actually gain, first of all, why is our survival limit 4? Of course, because of our principles. We gain a survivor corpse set up in the first story showdown. We also gain a skull, and we increase the survival limit by 1. We also gain 1 permanent accuracy. However, the first story creature will gain +1 damage and -1 movement. And finally, we add Acid Storm to the timeline on years 3, 7, 13 and 19. Suboptimal. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to the Acid Storm, and we're going to include that right now. We're also going to remove Missing Statue because we don't have encounters. I've played a little bit of them, and I'm okay with not playing them anymore. They're actually great. I love encounters. But so 3, 7, 13 and 19. That is tragic. Why do we have that? Just acid storms galore. Which probably means we're not going to see an acid storm during the thing. So good luck to us. All of our survivors start with an accuracy bonus. Which is great. I should not have actually invaded Dreamless language just yet, but that's okay. We will get there. All right. So we've got Ocular Parasites, we've got Acid Storm, we're going to gain a Skull, and we're going to gain a Survival increase. So that's going to be super fun. It's the first time I've actually used Ocular Parasites in a campaign. I kept forgetting to do it in my last couple of campaigns, which were literally recorded on camera, so fun. We've got 7 survivors, 7 wonderful survivors. Now, I need to go through and come up with names, so please throw your suggestions out in there. My girlfriend suggested we name them after flowers, so we could have Rose, we could have Lily, etc. We also potentially were contemplating naming them after the 7 dwarves, so Grumpy, Sleepy, Dopey, etc. I'm less enamored with that idea personally, but... All right, so let's just review a couple of things. So we selected our 5 strain fighting arts that we're including into this campaign. We've chosen Backstabber and Ethereal Pact, which could be incredibly fun. That might allow us to get a Saviour, even though we're ageless, so that'd be a super fun combo. Infernal Rhythm and Shield Orang. Infernal Rhythm, we have instruments, so that could be quite fun. And finally, Sword Oath, obviously. we're 7 swordsmen. So we are not going to include all of our various hunt events. We're only going to include some of them, just so we can have some variability from campaign to campaign. And obviously we're not including encounters. So all of our decks are set up. All right, so let's review the characters that we've selected for this campaign. The first character, one of our named ones, is Aya. We have a model for her. She is painted. She is the red survivor, and she is going to be absolutely fantastic. Now, one thing I didn't touch on in my last campaign that I did with People of the Dreamkeeper, I had a perfect punt, which I will cut to right now. This is the stuff I'm storing in the box. So we're going to do this together. So we're going to discard a Vespertine bow, sense memory, one Vespertine bow. We're also going to discard a sleeping virus flower. So we picked up a second one of those from facing off against the And as you can see, I added 59,000 pieces of equipment. You are only allowed to add 1 gear. And so the 1 gear that we are going to take into our next campaign is the Vespertine bow. Now thematically, the hollow sword may have been a better choice. However, we will have absolutely no possible way of crafting a Vespertine bow because we will lose 17 population doing so. And we're just not in a position to do that. So we're going to take a Vespertine bow into the prologue. And Aya will be the one wielding said Vespertine bow. Our next character that we have is Lucy, and we're going to use the Lucy, the 10th survivor, 10th anniversary survivor for her. She is named Lucy because Lucy's the best girl, we all know it, let's just acknowledge it. The third character that we have, who is the parent, is Mossy, and here's Mossy here, inspired by my girlfriend, the boxer, because she beats the shit out of me on the regs. And she is joining the party. And finally, a character from one of my other favourite Kingdom Death content creators, Bra, who I've obviously spoken about in the video. Newt, the character Newt, used by the Cockroach Queen figure. Newt was a character in one of his campaigns that picked up homicidalism and ended up just murdering 5,000 people and all sorts of other fun stuff. So she's managed to make her way into this group, and let's see what happens to this version of Newt. So that is our 4 starting survivors that will be in the first showdown. We then also have Willow, and she is our novel swordmaster as per the novel sword mastery. And then we have 2 survivors remaining that I would love to hear some suggestions on names. We've got some cool figures that I'm painting up right now for them. So one of them is an arrow, the bow, and then one of them is the Paladin, who's got the big lance, which is an awesome figure wearing Death King armor, with the specialization, the axe. So some suggestions for names from you wonderful people. I'm very much looking forward to this campaign. I'm sure you can tell that I was all packed up and now I'm just ready to get back into it. So I'm very excited. I will be looking forward to starting the first Lantern year and then heading out there with hopefully some named survivors. So look forward to catching you all in the first Lantern year. Big Deno.